Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for your reviews, your comments, your likes, your subscribes. They mean so much to us, and they do help other people find the show. We just wrapped up a giveaway, and I wanted to tell you all who won. It was Andrea, Laredo, and Sarah. Each got $150 for helping out with that. We're going to do more in the future because we want this to be a podcast that pays, literally, and pays off for you and your leadership. Now, let's jump into this week's episode. This one factor is going to bring people into your organization. It's going to drive people away from your organization. It's going to be what allows you to turn strategy into action. This is the thing that is also one of the hardest parts of leading and figuring out what's going on. We are talking about culture. And today we're going to talk about signs of a healthy culture and what you can do to build a healthy culture where you are. Let's go. Welcome to the Lead Well podcast, where we give mission-driven leaders principled and practical advice so they can do just that, lead well. I'm your host, John Kidwell, and I love the fact that I get to be here with you every single week. Thank you for being here. Every week, we're going to bring leadership content, and we're going to answer questions from you. So if you have not yet sent in a question, now's the time. Email me at podcast@leadwell.com. or text me 832-895-1253, and we will answer your question in future episodes. We got some here at the end today, but first, back to what we were talking about. That thing that brings people in, that drives people out, that takes strategy and turns it into action, we are talking about culture. And you're probably thinking, yeah, I got it, but I don't really know what it is. Like, you can feel culture. You know it when it's going well and when you have a good one, and you know it when it's not going well and you have a bad one. But what can I do as a leader? Let's set the stage first as to what we're talking about when we talk about culture, and then let's dive into signs of a healthy culture. That's what we want. Healthy things grow. And we want to create a culture that is healthy so that our people, our place, and the work that we do grows. Okay, so Indeed defines it like this. Work culture is a collection of attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that make up the regular atmosphere in a work environment. That also sounds like a very sterile culture. It's true, it is. Why is it said that way? It's because culture can go up or down. It really is just the collection of attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors. People like us do things like this. That's a Seth Godinism about culture. We want to, as leaders, we want to make a healthy culture, one where our people, our work, our place, that organization is growing. Here's how we define a healthy culture. A healthy culture are the values, beliefs, and behaviors that promote the health and achievement of the people, the place, and your purpose. Let me say that one more time, especially for my friends who are writing it down. A healthy culture are the values, the beliefs, and the behaviors that promote the health and achievement of the people, the place, and the purpose. We want to create a healthy culture because healthy culture grows. So what are 3 signs of a healthy culture? Healthy cultures are safe, they are enjoyable, and they are effective. Healthy cultures are safe, enjoyable, and effective. We're going to dive into what it means to have a safe culture. How do we know if we have one, and what can we do to build one? And just FYI, we are not going to get to enjoyable and effective today. It wouldn't be effective if we pushed all of them into today. So this is a 2-parter. Just like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, you got to come back for Part 2. You don't have to wait a whole year. You got to come back next week. So make sure that you subscribe so that you are back here to talk about Signs of a Healthy Culture Part 2 next week. Okay, safe. What does safe mean? It's a very popular word right now in work and in culture. What does that term safe mean? It comes from the term psychological safety, which many of us have known through Amy Edmondson's work. She's a Harvard professor. Here's what she says. Team psychological safety is a shared belief held by members of a team that it is okay to take risks, to express their ideas and concerns, to speak up with questions, and to admit mistakes, all without fear of negative consequences. Edmondson put it this way. It is the felt permission for candor. Just sit with that for 1 second. Is that what you think of when you think of safe and how you might define safe in the organization where you are? Here's the experience that I have going most places, and it's one for me too. I've had to wrestle with this and figure this out. Oftentimes, when we hear we want it to be safe, we actually start to create environments where we avoid challenge, where we avoid confrontation, where some of what Edmondson was talking about, taking risk, expressing ideas, concerns, maybe even making mistakes, we avoid those altogether. We push them in the corner. We don't want to go there. We don't actually want to come into the challenge and be okay in the challenge. We just want to remove it. And that is not actually safe. It's an artificial safety. Everything in that scenario just goes underground. And that's not what we want because people will not then actually bring ideas, concerns. They won't make mistakes. Instead of bringing mistakes and correcting mistakes, they're going to hide mistakes or blame it on other people. And it'll further this culture of not being safe. So, what can we do to help build and create safe cultures? Ones where, as Edmondson says, we can take risks, we can express ideas and concerns, we can speak up with questions and admit mistakes. Here's what we can do. We can do 3 things to help build and create safe cultures. A safe culture is one where people are dignified, can take risks, and be vulnerable. And as leaders, we want to help build a culture where people are dignified, they can take risks, and be vulnerable. So how can we set up a culture where people are dignified? Well, we can choose that we want to treat other people as we want to be treated. Here's an interesting thing. Gallup did a study about basic universal fears and basic universal needs, and dignity was one of them. And dignity really just starts, if you think about it, what is it like for you to have dignity? It means you're being treated as you would want to be treated. And if we turn that, just that simple idea and that mindset towards our approach with other people, we will immediately start to give and grow the dignity of others. Here are some things that will help us create safe places where people are dignified. We show respect, even if we disagree. That allows people to maintain dignity by being respected, by not being criticized in public and chastised. Another thing that we can do to create dignity is actually give ownership. Now, there's a lot that goes into giving ownership, but what does that mean if we were to simplify it down? It means that they have the ability to make decisions. That it's a dignifying experience for me to be able to decide for myself. That they are responsible for themselves and their work. And sometimes this is one of those weird ones where we actually want to be so helpful that we take away some of an individual's responsibility for themselves and their work by making decisions for them. And instead of it being helpful, it actually diminishes their dignity and makes them feel insignificant. Another piece of ownership that ties in with dignity is achievement. I feel great. I feel successful. I feel just a little proud, shoulders back, that I can walk with my head up high when I have achieved things. So kind of like Edmondson puts out, we kind of got to lean in to expressing ideas, taking risks. We also need to lean in to helping people and holding people to the standard of achievement that we are trying to hit. Because then when they do in fact achieve that, they get to walk with their head up high, shoulders back, feeling dignified in the work that they do. So, dignified. right? That's our first one. Second one, inside of a safe culture, is we want to build a culture where people can take risks. And if I'm dignified, I'm already set up to be able to take risks. What does that mean, take risk? It means that I can be a little careless or a little carefree because I know that you care about me. I know that at the end of the day, you are for me. And so I get to be a little careless, a little carefree because you are not going to write me off if I accidentally say the wrong word, if I accidentally send the wrong email, if I accidentally cost us some money. It's a mistake. It's a non-fatal mistake, meaning we can correct it. We want to move into that place where we can be a little risky. If we remove all risk, we will lose the innovation of our organizations. We will lose the integrity of our organizations. People will no longer bring problems and issues and mistakes. If they can't take a risk and have a failure, they will hide the failures. So we want to move from where mistakes are not okay to where mistakes are okay to where mistakes are celebrated. When we can move along that spectrum and move the risk tolerance from, oh, no, we don't make mistakes here, to, yes, mistakes are okay, to all the way where mistakes are celebrated as learning opportunities because we know we're not going to do that again. We're going to grow from that. And that is welcomed and that is celebrated and that is expected. We will get people that will lean in. They will try things. And because they are dignity and they own their work and they get to make decisions, they're going to do it with the heart of, I own this. I got to take care of this. I'm not being flippant with my mistakes, but I'm doing it because I'm trying to work hard and diligently and try new things. And that's where we want to get to where, hey, a mistake is made. That's awesome. What did we learn? How can we grow through this? Next one. We want people to be able to raise issues. And if you have been in an organization where that is not safe, that as soon as you bring an issue, you bring a concern, you get blackballed or blacklisted, or you don't get that promotion, or maybe you simply were exited, you know what it feels like when you can't take a risk. We want to invite those in a healthy culture. Healthy cultures can withstand issues and concerns because healthy things will repair themselves. They will work through the issue, the concern, the problem to repair itself and make it stronger on the other side. John Acuff has a great quote that says, if a leader cannot be questioned, they will eventually do unquestionable things. We want people to bring issues, problems, deliver feedback. We need to invite it and celebrate it and incentivize it. And we need to honor that that is a risk, but how can we as leaders position it where that is an invitation and that risk is wonderful? Welcome. So as we said, we're talking about signs of a healthy culture, and those are safe, enjoyable, and effective. We are diving into safe, and we've talked about safe cultures need to be a place where people have dignity, where they can take risks. And that last one, how can we make sure that the mistakes come, that the issues come? It's that last part. It's that we are vulnerable and that people can be vulnerable as well. A sign of a safe culture is that there's dignity, we could take risks, and that people can be vulnerable. And I just want to be real with you for a second. I started thinking that wasn't allowed. I had to be perfect. I had to have it all together. I couldn't say something like, I don't have all of the answers. I didn't feel as I could say that as a leader. And maybe you're there. Maybe you were there. I just want to encourage you that whatever narrative you're telling yourself, it's not true. And on the other side of it is a different sort of strength that you will find that you never knew existed. So I'm looking squarely at every single one of us that lead where we are. And when it comes to being vulnerable, leaders lead. You must go first. If you don't, they won't. Leaders need to lead with vulnerability and go first because you set the tone. Because if it is safe for you to make mistakes, if it's safe for you to raise issues, if it's safe for you to invite feedback and accept criticism, then they will do the same. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen. Here's the most counterintuitive thing. That lesson that I learned is we think we will be perceived as weak for admitting faults, talking about struggles, working through problems, saying we don't know it all. We think we will be perceived as weak when we are vulnerable, when in reality, others see our strength. You will be seen as a stronger leader when you are able to be vulnerable, make mistakes, take risks, learn from them, and go do amazing work on the backside of it. And we want that same thing for our organization. So the first sign of a healthy culture is that it is safe, where there is dignity, we can take risks, and we can be vulnerable. We are okay to be us without being written off and to do our best day in and day out. Next time, we're going to jump into the next two signs, enjoyable and effective. And we're going to walk through those two and how all three of them work together to really further that of a healthy culture. One where our values, our beliefs, our behaviors promote the health and the achievement of the people, the place that we work, and the work that we do. I can't wait to talk more about it with you then. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, follow, leave a comment on YouTube wherever you are engaging. We would love to hear from you wherever you are. And we're about to jump into questions. So Matthew, get them up, get them ready. And if you have a question that you want to send us, we would love to answer a question from you in a future episode. Email it to podcast@leadwell.com or text me or leave a voicemail at 832-895-1253. Matthew, what questions do we have today?
We've got some good ones, John.
All right.
First, let's have you talk about how do you keep your team motivated despite conflicts and obstacles?
Just absolutely blind optimism. I'm joking. Not blind optimism. That is 100% what I would have done very early on. Just everything's going to be okay. We've got this. We could take the hill. Now, let me temper that just a second to say it's not blind optimism, but we are going to be relentlessly optimistic. I'm going to keep that positive nature in the face of challenge, in the face of fear. I'm going to choose hope. We're going to work through it. We're going to stay positive, but we're just going to be relentless about it and honor the fact that it might not all be great, that we have to deal with the reality that is, and it could be negative. However, we're moving towards a positive place. So what are some ways that I might do that, or that you might do that? I think tying it back into why we do the work is always a great place to start. Why does this matter? Why does our work matter in the lives of another individual? Why does our work matter in the lives of another business? Tying it into why we do the work that we do and why it matters to other people is a great place to start, because then I'm not just going for motivation. I'm actually going for inspiration. I want it to bubble up from within instead of just always come from the outside. I think other things that we can do after we really secure on that why, first and foremost, is as much as I can tie whatever we are doing to a success, a celebration, an achievement. So if it's a sales goal or if it's a project or whatever it is, let's shrink the always moving target of just business and service into something that's a little bit more manageable and bite-sized, such as all of us are sitting here thinking, oh, by the time we get to the top of this mountain, we know there's another 2 or 3 mountains that we got to go to. Shrink it in, focus it in on the next 3 months. And how can I engage them in the next 3 months to get them motivated to do what we have to do in the next 3 weeks, 3 months, 6 months, whatever that might be. The last piece is finding the motivation and the rest for myself to be able to be on where we are. So what motivates me so that I can show up motivated every day, because I'm going to set the tone, but then also meaning that I got to be off so that I can be on. And I think that combination of tying into the heart of the work, shrinking in some of the very long-term aspirational targets that we may have, and making sure that I am on enough to show up are some great places and some places where I would start if it were me trying to motivate through some challenging times.
Great. That's helpful. So, on that same topic, you've got your team motivated. What are good ways to reward and incentivize their performance as they use that motivation?
Yeah. Huge fan of rewarding and incentivizing performance. I think working together is an amazing thing, and getting paid to do work that we truly love is a benefit. And I want to, and I think it's a good idea to incentivize increased performance, right? So this is something that we do is that we have our targets, we have our goals, we have whatever those objectives are, and we have some incentive built into that, right? Where here's what we make, and also here's some incentive for hitting our targets. But what we like to do, and what we've encouraged others to do, is set the incentive beyond the target. I don't want to just get to where we're going. If you've got capacity and the drive and the ambition and the ability to go beyond, and all of us are going to win at a higher level, the organization, me, you, the people we serve, because we're serving more people, I want to incentivize that as much as I can. And so we build in incentives to go beyond what our normal targets are. We believe that if we win, we want everybody to win. And so we're going to share in that performance, really money, profit-based growth after we hit our targets. I think another way to incentivize performance is to actually recognize performance. I don't know about you, but I thrive on affirmation and validation. And if you tell me I'm doing a good job, I'm going to go try even harder. So we want to do the money, but we also want to do the what matters to me. And if it matters to you to be told that, if it matters to you to be given gifts, if it matters to you to get a handwritten note, and I know that about you as a team member, I want to incentivize and recognize that performance in that way too. Both with kind of the structural money and also just telling you you're doing a great job and that I notice it. Yeah, great question. Thanks, Matthew. What else?
Yeah. Last one for you. What's a favorite podcast and or book that you would recommend to our listeners?
Well, I wouldn't be as bold as saying the Lead Well podcast. No, but one that I really enjoy and have been listening to, I think since they launched it, is At the Table with Patrick Lencioni. I truly enjoy listening to that podcast. I think that it is always relevant. It is always helpful. And I usually leave with something that I can do in a different way that I'm thinking about something. So if you're not listening to this one, you should be listening to At the Table, but perhaps you just listen to both. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was such a privilege to be able to talk with you, talk about culture. We're going to dive back into culture on the next episode. Don't miss it. Come back. We'll see you again next week. Be well, lead on, and God bless, my friends.